Greg, is the budget really balanced?
Well, but technically, but we really don't know. I mean, we haven't. I talked to a lawmaker this morning. Said, I hope nothing got. I hope we didn't do anything too wrong. They don't know. They didn't see They didn't have time to analyze the final conference reports. That no one's analyzed them yet. I hadn't, and that'll come this today and this weekend maybe. But yeah, I mean, it'll technically be balanced. It has to be. So they'll make adjustments. It'll be balanced, but it's still not. It's not what you would call an efficient way to run things.
By making adjustments, you're talking.
But it has a lot of. It's balanced, but it has a lot of money that really doesn't exist. So
right.
The next
Well, is it really balanced, though? I mean, the thing is that the government made commitments that he's not going to veto. And so what's he going to veto in order to balance the budget? Am I misreading this?
Steve, that we've got to recognize is that some pretty well thought out voices, including the Public Affairs Research Council, the Bureau of Government in New Orleans, Treasurer John Kennedy, all are saying that a good number of these revenue enhancements that were passed were not passed by a 2/3 vote, and therefore they're open to a challenge. So if the budget is or is not balanced, there may be a huge hole there the courts create by throwing out some of these enhancements that did not get the 2/3 vote. C.B. Ferguson, for example, is very articulately written about the fact that you need a 2/3 vote. And they didn't get these to 2/3 on a number of the proposals out there. So it may be a lot worse. Whatever it is right now, it may in the next couple of months be a lot worse.
That's true. But someone has to challenge it, and which would make for a good news story. But there's a lot of things that could go challenged, and most never do. The truth of the matter is.
Well, I agree, and not only that, you have to be willing to spend a lot of your personal money, and then you have to prove that you have some reason to be part of or even file the suit. But you're correct, and most people don't have $200,000 or $300,000 to spend on going all the way through the process, which is a minimal couple $100,000 to get through the court. So
which you may just do it on principle.
Yeah. Well, principle unfortunately doesn't get you very far in the courts.
Right.
But okay, so even if they don't file a lawsuit to challenge, how are they going to balance? This was done at the last minute. We have no idea what's going to happen. So therefore, we're talking about a gubernatorial veto of some of the measures, or we're talking about a cut either prior to Jindal's leaving or after he leaves. Is that how we're going to balance the budget?
If it comes up short, what they do is you make the mid-year budget cuts as you go, which has been done every year for the past few years that I can remember. That's how it works.
Under the governor's administration,
I don't think. Yeah. I think what is done is done. I think the analysis of what was done and what the consequences are is what's going to determine the fate of the taxpayers and the services they get. They passed the budget. They've done it this way for I guess for the last 5, 6, 7 years. I don't think taxpayers are going to get that upset about it. They can make corrections. What is important is what they didn't solve the problem. What they did sets up the next governor to have an incredibly tough time. And what they didn't do anything to solve the problem that the legislature and the governor has with the taxpayers and their unwillingness to give them another dime. And how's the state of Louisiana going to continue to operate unless they cut $1.6 billion, because they don't have the revenue to pay for it?
Well,
So,
that's right. And the key, as you mentioned, as Bernie mentioned, the only tax that doesn't sunset is the cigarette tax. So, and that's $108 million. So we're talking about $600 million that that will disappear again, either in a year or by the end of 3 years, certainly.
Yeah, we don't have any footing right now to take the next step for the next governor, which is to have enough revenue, and you've got to change the system. But before you can change the system, you can do what they did in tax business, but the next governor's got to somehow convince the public that they've got to pay more, and that's going to be a really tough selling job, because we probably have a Republican governor, or probably have a Republican legislature, and as Jim Brown pointed out, it's not going to last too long where Republicans are going to be leading the charge for more and more revenue, and find their life will become very uncomfortable.
Well, that's a great point, and ultimately,
go on, Greg.
There were many, most Democrats and many of the Republicans wanted to, vote down this and go to a veto session. But what the truth of the matter is, they could have gotten to a veto session. I talked to Lario, the Senate would join them, but getting to the veto session was the easy part. I mean, you got to remember, most of these votes, as was pointed out earlier, Stephen, Bernie, Jim, did not get. They were hard votes, and they didn't get 70 votes. It would absolutely take 70 votes for an override. So hell, then you get your $600 million in the hole, or 700. So that had they gone, it was easy to say we'll go to a veto session and override. Well, that was the session could have happened, but the override was unlikely. It's my opinion.